Today, we're breaking down the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. We're talking about one single shot that is now echoing across the entire American political landscape. Okay, let's dive right in. And right away, these words from Utah's Governor Spencer Cox really set the tone. He made it crystal clear this wasn't just being seen as a crime, but as a major political event, one with huge national implications. So, to really get why that statement is so heavy, we've got to rewind a little bit. Let's go back to September 10th and see exactly what went down at Utah Valley University. So, Kirk was on this big multi-state college tour, right? And this event was his classic setup. You know the one. He's sitting at a table, taking questions, debating students on all the big, controversial topics. It was supposed to be all about open dialogue. And you gotta understand, this was not some small little get-together. We're talking over 3,000 people. They were all gathered at this outdoor event, right in this central, kind of bowl-shaped area on campus, with buildings all around. So, was there security? Absolutely. The university's police chief said there were 6 officers on duty there, and that's on top of Kirk's own personal security team that he always traveled with. But as we all know now, tragically, it just wasn't enough. And that account? It's just chilling. It's from an international student who was actually filming the whole thing. And that footage, it captures the exact second that a political debate just turned into chaos, pure panic and tragedy. So that brings us to the big question, right? Who exactly was Charlie Kirk? And how did he become such a major and, honestly, such a controversial figure in American politics? Because really, to get the impact of his death, you have to understand his life. I mean, Kirk's rise was just astronomical. Think about it. In a little over a decade, he goes from being this teenager in a Chicago suburb, kind of looking around at the conservative groups and thinking, I can do better, to becoming this huge force in national politics. He had a direct line to the White House. It's incredible. And really, this gets right to the heart of his entire mission. See, Kirk looked at college campuses and basically saw them as completely dominated by liberal ideas. So what did he do? He built an entire organization to be a counterweight, a place where young conservatives could finally organize and have a voice. And you can't argue with the results. I mean, look at these numbers. He was incredibly successful. Turning Point USA became this absolute powerhouse for fundraising and organizing. He was a master at taking all that online energy and turning it into a huge real-world presence, both on campus and in major political campaigns. So for his allies and supporters, this is a huge moment. His death has basically turned him into a martyr for their cause. In their eyes, he literally died for free speech and conservative values. And they're saying his movement, it's only just begun. It's only going to get stronger. But, and this is a really important but, Kirk's legacy is super polarizing. You have to get this to understand the whole story. He was absolutely not a universally loved figure, far from it. And this right here, it just lays out that deep divide perfectly. On one side, his supporters saw him as this champion of free speech, someone who really understood the economic fears of young people. But on the other side, his critics saw him as something else entirely, a source of dangerous misinformation who gave a huge platform to some really extreme personalities. And his critics, they weren't just making vague claims. They would point to specific moments, like the ones you see here, as proof of what they called his divisive and dangerous rhetoric. Their argument was that by hosting these controversial figures, by talking about politics as a spiritual battle, he was pouring fuel on the fire of polarization, the same polarization many now worry might have led to his death. Okay, so let's shift gears and talk about the aftermath. How is the country reacting to this, and what do we know from investigators so far about who did this? Well, the reaction from the very top was, as you can imagine, immediate and powerful. President Trump, who gave Kirk a lot of credit for firing up the youth vote, he praised his impact and even ordered flags all across the country to be flown at half-staff. So what about the investigation? What are we learning? Well, law enforcement is being very clear on one thing. This was not random. All the details coming out from the FBI and the state investigators, they're all pointing in one direction: a planned, targeted attack by one shooter who fired from a long way off. And we're hearing strong condemnations of the violence from all sides, even from political leaders who completely disagreed with Kirk. The message from people like Congressman Mike Kennedy, whose district actually includes the university, is that this kind of political violence is just not acceptable. They're saying it won't be allowed to intimidate or silence people. So, at the end of the day, this whole tragic event leaves the entire country with a really tough and, frankly, urgent question. In a time when we are so politically divided, this forces us to have a difficult conversation. Where do we draw the line between passionate debate and dangerous rhetoric? And maybe more importantly, how do we make sure our disagreements are settled with words and never, ever with violence?